And isn't that band great? Let's give them a hand. I am Representative Gina Hinojosa, and I have the and I want to welcome you to House District 49, of which I have the pleasure and the honor of serving as your representative. And I want to welcome you to this beautiful and historic park, Republic Square Park. And it just so happens that earlier this week I was sitting under that oak with local Austin historian Ted Eubanks, and I learned the history of this square. Under that oak, the first parcels of land for our capital city were auctioned off under that very oak. In 1839, Edwin Waller created a grid for this city. It was 1 square mile. In the center was the square for the Capitol, and then there were lesser squares for public squares, and we are in one of the remaining 3 public squares. This was referred to as Hemp Hill Park, but because people of Mexican descent settled all around here, it was referred to as Mexican Park. And I tell you this, not just because of the parallel in history between the Mexicans who were trying to escape the Mexican Revolution and the brutality of that to come here, and this Mexican who wants to escape the brutality of Governor Greg Abbott. I tell you this because it's important for us to take a moment, to take a minute to appreciate our moment in history. Whether it is a climate crisis that is unprecedented, a historic pandemic and how we respond to it, an attack on our voting rights that sets us back 50 years, or the essential ban on abortion that is in effect in the state of Texas, our politics today are of an unprecedented historic nature and consequence. And whether we like it or not, we all, you and I, whether by destiny or by fate, have been chosen for this moment.
No, this is a fair one.
And I want to think that all of you are here today because you understand that, because amidst all the many holiday parties happening tonight in Austin, Texas, because I didn't wear my Rent the Runway dress for a Beto rally, we choose to be here. We choose to meet the moment. Beto understands that this is our moment. When Democrats in the Texas House broke quorum and went to Washington, Beto called me and asked, how can I help? Of course he did. Right away, Beto called and asked, how can I help? Well, the thing is, we didn't really have a plan. We just took a leap of faith and we left, and we didn't really know how we were going to pay for 59 House members to stay in a hotel in D.C. for a month. And I said, Beto, we need money. And he said, I'm working on it. And he, empowered by people, worked on it to the tune of $600,000, without which our quorum break would not have been possible. Beto chooses to meet the moment now. He chooses to meet the moment because we have a grid that is teetering and a governor who, rather than fixing the damn grid, chooses to accept a $1 million donation from the biggest profiteer of our Texas blackout, a blackout that resulted in the death of over 700 Texans. We have a governor who, at a time when our public schools are desperate for support and help recovering from this unprecedented pandemic and the disruption it brought our governor choose to make up some BS about porn in libraries when we have historic learning loss and an exodus of teachers from our school. Essentially, at every turn, we have a governor who chooses to advance the QAnon agenda of the far right at the expense of Texans' lives and well-being. And that's why Beto is meeting the moment. And what nobody is telling you is that we can win. And Beto can win, and this is why. 3 years ago, when he ran against Ted Cruz, and can you believe it was only 3 years? 3 years ago, he only lost by 200,000 votes, a little over 200,000 votes. Since then, we've registered 2 million Texans to vote. And we have maybe the worst governor in Texas history. Look, these are just facts. That's all I'm saying. And so, this is our moment. But we have to work hard. We have to meet the moment with all we got. We have the candidate. Beto is running because he believes in us. He believes in our power, and if we believe in our power, we got this. Our power is the power of people. It is the only power that has ever changed anything in this world. And the people of Texas are ready for change. And the people of Texas are ready for Beto for governor.
You did great. Thank you. All right, Austin. Let's hear it for Gina Hinojosa and the other great Texas Democratic state legislators who did everything in their power to make sure that every eligible voter in the state of Texas could cast their ballot. So to Gina, to John Busey, to all of you who are out here, you are our heroes and we are grateful. And to the voters of Austin and all those volunteers who knocked on doors, who made phone calls, who reached out and connected with their friends and family members and neighbors back in that historic Senate race, you produced the largest voter turnout in this state in a midterm since 1970. And the young voters here, young voter turnout up 500% from the last midterm election. You helped to elect 2 new Democratic members to Congress, 12 new Democratic state reps, 17 black women to judgeships in Harris County. And you have made this moment possible. I'm here to tell you that I believe in you, I believe in us, and I believe in this state. You have shown me what is possible. In February, when the power went out in the energy capital of North America, lights wouldn't turn on, heat wouldn't run, the water stopped flowing because the pipes had frozen. You all got together, put your differences behind you, looked squarely forward, and asked your fellow Austinites, your fellow Texans, your neighbors, how you could help them. If they needed water, if they needed food, if they needed a place to stay for the night, you were there for them. You never asked, to whom do you pray? What party do you belong to? Who do you love? How many generations are you here? Or did you just come to Austin last week? It doesn't matter. No me importa. All that we care about is that you're here and we have a chance to help one another out. In fact, your great county judge, Andy Brown, placed a phone call to us in El Paso, and he says, you're not on ERCOT, so your lights are still on, the water's still flowing. Could you bring us some water in Austin? I know it's an 8.5-hour drive, but for those of you who are here from El Paso, and I love you, you know that it's worth the trip. So we went and loaded a pallet of water into the back of our truck. We drove it to Austin. We met Andy on that cold February day at Northeast High School, where in the adjoining parking lot, there was a line hours deep of people who were trying to get fresh water because they had none at their house, food because they could not prepare it where they were. But where we were dropping off that water, there were hundreds of others from this community also dropping off water, hundreds more from outside of Austin doing the same thing, and then a line just as long as the one that was picking up of people who were signing up to put water in their trunks and deliver it to homebound seniors who otherwise could not get out of their homes. That is the best of us in the state of Texas. Being there for one another when it really counts. Those in power might have failed us, but the people of Austin would not fail each other. And I tell you what, that built a relationship of trust among us, regardless of our differences. We knew that we could count on one another when it really counted. And that's what we need right now in Texas, because we've got a governor who does not trust the people of this state. He did not trust those in Texas who warned him, if we do not weatherize the grid, if we do not hold those power company CEOs and gas supply CEOs accountable, then we might very well lose the ability to keep one another alive. But he listened more to them because they write the campaign checks, and so they call the tune. And so 5 million went without power that February day, and in the weeks in some cases thereafter. 700 people, including an 11-year-old boy, lost their lives, literally froze to death in this state, not because of an act of God or Mother Nature, but because the man in the highest position of public trust in the land had failed them, because he did not trust the people of this state. Well, I'll tell you what, we trust Texas, and we're going to make sure that we keep the lights on, that we keep the heat running, that we keep the water flowing, that we weatherize the grid, and we make the important political decisions to make sure that we can keep each other safe when it really counts. This governor, he doesn't trust, despite his rhetoric, law enforcement in this state. When police chiefs and sheriffs and the officers and deputies who work with them begged him not to sign a permitless carry law because it allows anyone in this state to carry a loaded firearm without a background check or any training whatsoever, and despite the fact that law enforcement had helped to deny 35,000 licenses to carry a firearm over the last 5 years because they decided that that person is too dangerous to themselves or to the people around them to be trusted with a loaded gun in public. Now every single one of them can do that, and the tens of thousands more who knew better than to even request a license to carry. Please ask Greg Abbott the next time you see him, why do you want criminals in the state of Texas to be able to carry a loaded gun in public? It's because you do not trust law enforcement, but we do, and when I'm governor, we are repealing permitless carry in the state of Texas. We're going to keep each other safe. This governor does not trust the voters of the state of Texas. And under the guise of election security and trying to prevent so-called election fraud, he has made this the toughest state in the nation, bar none, in which to cast a ballot or to participate in our politics. Last year, 7 million of our fellow Texans, though eligible, did not cast a ballot in the most important presidential election since the year at least 1864. And they did it not for any lack of love of this democracy, not for any failure in passion for the future of our country, but because literally the obstacles were placed in their way, preventing them from exercising this right in what is purported to be the world's greatest democracy. But let me tell you, I trust the voters of this state, be they Republicans, independents, or Democrats, and when I'm governor, every eligible voter in Texas will be able to cast that ballot. Automatic voter registration, same-day registration, register to vote online. Whatever it takes to make sure that your voice is heard, we are going to do it. And I was asked to make a quick public service announcement. If you are not yet registered to vote and you want to get registered to vote, there is a volunteer deputy registrar booth out here on the premises. Please get registered tonight. And to all my VDRs out there, you are my heroes. Keep it up. Let's go register, everyone. Y algo más. Greg Abbott does not trust Texas women. Make no mistake. Make no mistake, this abortion ban that sets a $10,000 bounty on the head of any woman in this state, any person who wants to assist in ensuring that they can access an abortion that can be cashed in on by any American anywhere in this country. It is not about being pro-life, because listen, if the guy was pro-life, you wouldn't have kids in the custody of Child Protective Services sleeping in the hallways or on the desks or dying in our custody and care. No, this is about controlling the bodies of women in this state. And so I tell you this, when I am governor, every woman in Texas makes her own decisions about her own body, her own health care, and her own future. Abortion will be legal in the state of Texas.
The lights look so pretty when you're right on them.
We are going to trust Texas. That is how we're going to serve the people of Texas. That is how we're going to win this critically important election. It takes all of us trusting one another, making that commitment to ourselves, to each other, to the generations that will follow us, and ensure that this is a better state for them and for everyone who comes down the road. We do this by signing up now. You can go to betofortexas.com, enter your information. We'll put you to work, and I'm going to warn you, we're not going to win this one by tweeting our way to victory, or posting on Facebook, or Snapchatting, or TikToking, if that is a verb. We are going to win this eyeball to eyeball, face to face, door to door, reaching out to and connecting with our fellow Texans. At this moment of great division and polarization, we are coming together. We will not be defined by our differences. We will not allow them to pit us against one another. We are coming together. We're going to get past the incompetence, the extremism, that fringe politics that defines those in power right now in Texas, and get on to the big things, like making sure that the best jobs created anywhere in America are created right here in Texas, and that you don't need to work a second or a third job just to make ends meet, because you're paid a living wage in the one job that you have in this great state. And we're going to make sure that our kids in those public school classrooms receive the best possible education, because we're going to pay those public school educators their true value and worth, and make sure that they are not working a second or a third job just to make ends meet. And we're going to make sure that they can teach to the child and not to the test. And we're going to make sure that they can teach the true history of the state of Texas. And then on the things that most of us, regardless of party, actually agree on, like expanding Medicaid and taking yes for an answer from the federal government when they're willing to spend 95 cents on the dollar to send billions to this state to make sure that more people can see a doctor or fill a prescription or take their child to a therapist in the least insured state in the country, and to attract more providers, not just to Austin, Texas, but to rural communities where those hospitals and clinics are closing down by the dozens right now, and then reduce the local property tax burden, because right now, anyone with diabetes or curable cancer or even the flu who does not have insurance and might otherwise die and takes themselves to a hospital and cannot pay, you and I end up footing the bill in our taxes. So we're going to bring that money to Texas. We're going to be well enough to live to our full potential. We are going to have health care for the people of this state so they are healthy enough to work, to go to school, to do what they believe in, and make us better by their very presence. That's what we're going to do. And then this. I've been warned that this may or may not be a popular thing to say in Austin, Texas, but when I am governor, we are going to legalize marijuana. And we will make sure that no Texan is locked up for possession of a substance that is legal in almost every other state in this country right now. To do this, we have got to do it together. We've got to commit ourselves right now, just like you did in February. Put our differences behind us and firmly focus on the future of this state. It is not going to be easy, but it is absolutely worth doing. Together, we will deliver this state from a man who can literally not be trusted to deliver power to the people when they need it most. And we're going to ensure that we elect a governor who will always keep the lights on and who understands that the real power in Texas is the people of this state. Are you with me? Are you ready to win this race? Are you ready to do the work? Well, I am ready to do it with you. I love you, Austin. We're going to hang out for a while. Thank you for coming out here tonight. Have a great time. Be good to one another. Adios. Buenas noches. Adios. Hey, thank you for being here.